Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Senate Committee on Education. Welcome to those of you that are online and present by phone. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Vice Chair Dondero-Loop.
Here.
Senator Hardy.
Here.
Senator Hammond.
Here.
Senator Lang.
Here.
Senator Buck.
Here.
Senator Donate.
Here.
Chair Dennis.
I'm here. Thank you very much. We do have everyone here, and we do have a quorum. For those on video, if this is the first time that well, first of all, for those that are on video, keep yourself muted when you're not speaking. But for everyone else that's perhaps this is your first time coming to an education meeting, just wanted to give you a couple really quick things. All of our committee information is available on Nellis, which is on our website. It can be accessed. You can also watch our meetings through Nellis or the YouTube channel, which you've probably figured out by now. But if testifying or providing public comment, please register to participate through Nellis, and you will receive an email confirmation with call-in information. Detailed instructions for participating are available on the help page linked in a banner at the top of every page on Nellis. When testifying, state and spell your name and affiliation, if any. And we're going to take public comment at the very end, and I will limit testimony to 2 minutes per person, so if you could trim down your comments. And if you have full comments in writing or briefly summarize them in spoken testimony, you may submit written comments as outlined on the agenda by email or faxing them to the committee manager. And we are ready to begin. We have 3 bills to hear today. I'm going to take them out of order because I've got one request. One of the presenters has to be in a different meeting, and so asked to go later. So I'm going to first start with SB 249, then we will do SB 230, and then we will finish with SB 287. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the hearing on Senate Bill 249, and we've got Vice Chair Dondero-Loop, I believe, is going to do or at least going to start out the presentation.
Thank you so much, Chair Dennis. Thank you for having me today. For the record, I am Marilyn Dondero-Loop, representing Senate District 8 in Clark County. And with me today, you will hear later from 2 teens, Caroline and Lauren Edgeworth. I am pleased to present Senate Bill 249 for your consideration today. Before I start, I would like to say, while I am the only official sponsor on this bill, all teens in Nevada are truly my co-pilots and my co-sponsors. I know this statement is just symbolic of them, but I would like to be able to acknowledge those who have assisted their friends, been involved in teen mental health activities, and especially those that suffer from mental illness. Quite simply, the bill before you today provides additional authority for our mental health and behavioral health professionals to certify that pupil may be excused from attending school. The bill also provides additional information to students concerning mental health resources. I think we all recognize that the COVID-19 pandemic has provided challenges for our students' mental and behavioral health. The impact of isolation due to remote learning has magnified the urgent concerns about student safety and well-being. In May, 29% of US parents reported that isolation was harming children's emotional and mental health, and another 37% anticipated that lockdowns would have that effect if they continued. In June, 30% of high schoolers said they were feeling depressed more often. In November, the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, released a report alerting the nation about the mental health crisis among our students. According to the CDC, between April and October 2020, hospital emergency departments saw a 31% increase in visits from school-aged children for mental health needs. We have known for some time that students need increased access to behavioral health services. A 2018 internal survey conducted by the School Superintendents Association indicated that students' behavioral health needs were the top concern among the superintendents across our country. Here in Nevada, it is safe to say that our superintendents here are also concerned about our student mental health needs. However, the tragedies that we have had with the increased student suicides here in Nevada and other parts of our country have become a serious problem, even before the pandemic. And it is clear that we do need to do more to address this issue. Under Senate Bill 249, student ID cards would now include contact information concerning suicide prevention. This action will provide students with free and confidential support in times of suicidal crisis or emotional distress. An additional tool that we need to employ concerns the authority to make a determination and certify that a student is unable to attend school or that is not advisable for that student to attend school. Under current law, only a physician can make that determination. With the understanding that mental health and behavioral health concerns may be a factor in making this decision, it is important to authorize the trained specialists in these professions to also make that determination if it falls within the scope of their practice. At this time, I would like to describe two significant sections of the bill in itself. Section 1 requires that the back of any identification card for a pupil in a public school, including charter school, will now include mental health resource information, including telephone numbers of national and local suicide prevention hotlines. Section 2 makes 3 changes to the statutes concerning excused attendance in school. First, it adds behavioral health to the list of authorized conditions that would allow a child's attendance to be excused. Second, Senate Bill 249 allows a mental health or behavioral health professional to certify that a child is not able to attend school or that a child's attendance is inadvisable. And third, the bill prohibits an excused attendance from having a negative effect on a school's accountability rating. In closing, it is clear that our K-12 students may face many social and emotional and situational pressures that affect their school performance. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic has amplified these pressures. Our students need information about mental health resources that are available to them. In addition, as we emerge from the pandemic, it will be necessary to provide mental health and behavioral health professionals with the ability to make informed judgments about whether a student is able to attend a school or if attendance is even advisable. Senate Bill 249 accomplishes these policies. I would now like to introduce Caroline and Lauren Edgeworth, who are both high school teens, who are co-chairs of the Hope Means Nevada teen group that assists other teens with this issue. And please, Caroline and Lauren, when you're ready, go ahead.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much, Senator Dondero Loop, for supporting this bill. My name is Caroline Edgeworth, and I'm 17 years old and a junior, and this is my sister Lauren. She's 16 and a sophomore, and we both attend Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. So first and foremost, we just wanted to thank everyone for giving us this opportunity to share our stories. We are the co-chairs for the Hope Means Nevada Teen Community, which is a statewide group of teens aged 10 to 21, and we're working together to eliminate teen suicide in Nevada. So our mission is to destigmatize conversations about mental health. We want teens across Nevada to start talking about how we are feeling, how we're truly feeling. So we want to remind each other that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be sad, scared, angry, or lonely. So we need to start talking about how to be mentally and physically healthy. Our campaign motto is #Ask5, which is to ask 5 people how they're truly feeling. We know that mental health education is suicide prevention. Sadly, we have already lost 23 students to death by suicide this year in Clark County alone. That's more than double compared to the previous years. We know that many more kids our age are suffering with loneliness, anxiety, and depression. So almost all of our friends have experienced something similar during this pandemic. Even before the pandemic, 1 in 5 of us suffered with mental health issues, and the rate of youth in distress was already on the rise. Teens with mental health conditions increased by more than 50% between 2007 and 2017. Suicide is one of the leading causes of death among teenagers, and this last year has been really difficult for the both of us. The pressure of remote schoolwork, being disconnected from our friends and teammates has been really overwhelming. We've lost our rites of passage in high school, such as homecoming, prom, sports, which are a large part of our identity, and recruiting for college. And then seniors have also lost graduation. The list goes on. I was only a sophomore when the pandemic began. Recognizing what was happening to our friends, we jumped at the opportunity to get involved with Hope Means Nevada, advocating for mental health awareness. And we were really fortunate to watch a TED Talk by Haley Hardcastle on the benefits of mental health days. It really made sense to us. As athletes, high-achieving academic students, and people who just want to give back to the community, we're sometimes overwhelmed with the stresses of life, schoolwork, friends, just trying to be perfect all the time. There's days where we just want to break, just break from everything. So in the summer of 2020, we watched Haley Hardcastle show us that it was okay to take one of these days because one single day can make a huge difference and possibly save a life.
So we want to talk about how this bill could help. Once a mental health day is taken, it's noted by the students' counselors, and we hope that this will activate a chain of events where the student is evaluated and determine of what kind of assistance that is needed for them. And the parents would also know about the mental health day. So if 2 or 3 were taken, there should be a system in place to get the student the mental health assistance that is needed. Nevada's ranked one of the lowest in the country for mental health assistance, and we hope that this will change with the enactment of this bill. By using teen mental health days as a way to start the conversation with parents and counselors, this would be such a strong tool to identify teens who are struggling and just peer-to-peer as well. We believe if we had this bill in place, we could have saved those 23 lives by being alert to their distress before it was too late. Depression and suicidal thoughts are often suffered in silence, unbeknownst to teachers, counselors, parents, and even some of our closest friends. Sometimes teens don't want to betray their friends' trust by alerting a parent, a counselor, or another adult, and this bill would provide a very easy way for a teen who is struggling to raise a red flag to everyone. Will there be abuse to this? Yes, of course, just as sick days, there may be rare occasions of abuse, but we cannot let that supersede the number of lives we will save. Mental health days are a very powerful tool and quickly sends a message that you are struggling and you need help. Since it does set off a chain of events from the counselors, including evaluation, and since there is still some stigma with mental health, especially with boys, I believe students who really need these days will use them. And most kids I know don't want to miss school even when they're super sick. So we believe this is a powerful tool to help catch the early stages of a child suffering with mental health issues.
And our Hope Means Nevada Teen Committee of more than 100 teenagers across the state voted to advocate for mental health days. Sometimes just a break in the constant pressure can make a huge difference. Please, considering this is a giant step towards eliminating suicides in Nevada. We hope to help pass this type of legislation through the remaining 48 states, and we hope Nevada will lead the way in showing the country, or even possibly the world, that it's okay to not be okay, and to destigmatize mental health among teens. This is how the program would work. Just say a student is feeling overwhelmed, overworked, falling behind in school, and they know they need help. Maybe they've never talked about mental health with their parents before, which is really prevalent in Hispanic cultures and low-income families. But now they have a law on their side to help initiate that conversation. The parents still need to be the ones to call the school and excuse the absence, so it's not like a free pass for the kids. But most importantly, now the school has that absence reported as a mental health day so they can keep track of how many students take these days. This is important because we can catch students who are struggling before it's too late. One of the main things we heard that oftentimes stepping forward and getting help is the hardest step. This not only will teach kids at a young age how to take care of themselves and practice self-care and self-management, but it could also literally save lives. Now students from multiple other states are also trying to pass these laws. We believe students everywhere deserve a chance to feel better. The core concept is that physical and mental health are equal in importance and should be treated as such. In fact, they're connected. Take healthcare, for example, CPR. If you've had training, you could save someone's life. How about mental health care? I was trained in 7th grade in CPR in my health class, but what if I was trained in 7th grade how to handle my mental health or how to respond to a friend in crisis? I'd love to see a world where we have a toolkit on how to help a friend or a family member or even a stranger through a mental health crisis. These resources should especially be available in schools, and because that's where the students are struggling the most. We hope that you will agree that it is always okay to not be okay and that it's okay to take these breaks.
Just like how we take a sick day, we should take a mental health day to replenish and nourish our mental health. It could be the difference of saving a life. I would like to very much encourage you to watch the TED Talk by Haley Hardcastle. It's a super powerful message, and we believe this will save children's lives. While there may be some abuse with the bill, we must remember the importance and the effect of it on the teens who truly need it. Please help look after the teens in our life, especially the ones who look like they have it all together, and look after yourself too, and once in a while take a break. We support SB 249, and we are extremely grateful to Senator Dondero Loop for bringing this bill to our state legislature for consideration. Thank you all for your time and allowing for us to tell our story. I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren and Caroline, for sharing with us part of your day. And Mr. Chair and members of the committee, now you see my passion and my commitment to this bill. And I thank you, and this concludes my presentation. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator Dondero Loop, and thank you for your guests that just gave their testimony. We appreciate that. It's always good to hear from students. Do you have any? Is that the conclusion of your presentation?
It is, Chair.
Thank you. All right. Let me see if we have any questions. Questions? I saw Senator Hammond's hand up. Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Senator Dondero Loop. Thank you for the bill. I've read through it. The only question, there's a couple questions, but the only thing that comes to mind right now, when you're talking about putting the information on the back of the cards, are you talking about any kind of, if a school has issued cards to somebody and they usually keep those for a year, 2 years, or 3 years? Are you asking that the cards, when they're either reissued or issued for the first time, then have the information on the back, so there's not an additional cost?
Yes, we're actually, when those ID cards are given, and all students have them at schools now, and when those cards are issued, they usually have a picture on them, and they usually say, what school it is, et cetera, and on those cards will be some information. And as I understand it, I believe at least the Clark County School District has already started to move towards this with discussion.
Okay, so basically whenever a student gets a card or is reissued a card, I mean, I get that there's information on the front of the card, the picture and all that stuff. I'm just saying that, let's say that you at a charter school, they issue a card and they don't reissue a card until maybe they're a junior. So they get a freshman card, then they get a junior card. You're not asking them to turn in all the cards and then reissue the cards. You're saying going forward, that way there's not an additional cost to everybody. So now they're not going to reissue the cards again right now with all the information on the back.
I guess I would answer that any additional cost to print one line of suicide prevention information is worth a child's life. And so I don't know the exact cost for every school, because that would depend on what vendor they use and how they issue their cards. There may be schools that issue a card new every year. I know there have been some schools that do that. So not knowing how each school works with their vendor, my own opinion is that there would be no cost that would be too much to save a child's life.
Okay, and I just want to know if that was what you were anticipating in the bill. In the bill, you're asking them to reissue cards, put the information on the back, and then reissue them and get them all to the kids.
Well, I'm not necessarily asking them to reissue because they may be reissuing every single year at the beginning of the year anyway. like I said, I can't speak for Durrell Charter or Cimarron Memorial High School or Reed High School or whatever high school or elementary school it may be in this state, because we have many, and they may all do that differently with their vendor. But all students are issued cards, and all students are given school pictures every year. They don't use the same school picture for 4 years. So that's the best answer I can give you right now. I can take that offline and answer it further if you need.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. And the students did a great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Senator Dondero Loop, I think on that last question, probably it seems to me that what you would do is whenever they issue a card going forward, that's when that would be done.
Right.
You're not asking them to retroactively go back and do something. So
No, but almost, especially with the pandemic, with all of us being out of school for a whole year, I can't imagine any school not issuing new cards next fall.
Yeah, I would think that they'll whenever they reissue those. Other questions? Senator Lang, is that?
Hi, thank you. I know you can't see my little hand up there. I'm lowering it now. Thank you for this bill, Senator. I think it's so important, and I really appreciate the kids for bringing it forward. I think that mental health days, and I saw it with our grandson who lives with us, who is in elementary school, experienced depression from being at home and doing distance ed while on COVID. So I think this is really important. I also would just make a comment about the what Senator Hammond was bringing forward. You remember how we used to get our driver's license and they would put a sticker on the back when they were renewed until you got your card. That's a really easy thing. Doesn't cost really very much for the school districts to do that. So I think it's an easy fix. I love this bill and everything about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your support, Senator Lang. I appreciate that.
Other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any at the moment. Right, so let's go then to, let me make sure I got the right one. We're going to open the test will be in support of SB 249. So if BPS could please add the first caller.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on SB 249, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, if you'd like to testify in support on SB 249, press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 727, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hi, my name is Trin Dang, Executive Director of NAMI Southern Nevada, a mental health nonprofit in our community that provides education, support, and advocacy to families and individuals affected by mental health conditions. I just first want to thank Senator Dondero Loop, the Hope Means Nevada Committee, as well as other legislators on this call for taking the time to listen to this bill. As someone who has struggled with mental health since I was a teen, I did not disclose at the time my thoughts of suicide. I would often miss school and didn't know who to turn to, where to go, or what to say. I didn't reach out for help until my mid to late 20s when it was clearly affecting my personal and professional life. If I had a helpline or a phone number that I could call, I may have had the option to get help sooner. That could have saved me over a decade and a half of struggling in silence. Since then, I've learned that when I start to feel overwhelmed, I need to take time out for my own self-care. We need to give our students the resources and empower them to do the same. We know that the earlier our youth gets help, the better the prognosis. By including mental health information on ID cards, it goes beyond providing access to information. It sends a message that it is okay to reach out for help, that we are a community that cares about mental health, and that it takes us one step closer towards destigmatizing mental health conditions. Thank you again, Senator Dondero Loop and the Hope News Nevada Committee for driving this bill forward.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits 577, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. Chris Daly, D-A-L-Y, Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years. NSCA would also like to thank the author of SB 249, Senator Dondero Loop, for shining a light on such an important issue of student mental health. Specifically on our support of SB 249, in addition to the provisions of the bill making a lot of sense in moving this issue forward to allow for an excused absence for behavioral health issues. We also wanted to point out that in section or subsection 4 of the bill, the importance of this language to make sure that any such excusal does not negatively affect the rating of the school. Oftentimes we've seen the system of accountability, while well-intentioned, really have impacts that are negative on other issues. In this case, the push to have a higher school rating could push attendance even when that attendance is not in the best interest of the student, like we heard in the presentations today. So thank you to the bill sponsor, NSCA's in support of SB 249. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits 080, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the Education Committee. My name is Leonardo Benavides, Leonardo-Benavides, with the Clark County School District, testifying today in support of SB 249. Thank you, Senator Dondero Loop, for bringing forward this bill as we look to find ways to support mental wellness for our students of the district. While the changes in SB 249 may seem small, if they can help even one student, it will be more than enough. Providing additional information for students to access in their time of need, or give them access to additional days off to address their well-being may make a world of difference down the line. And we are happy to work with Senator Dondero Loop and organizations like Hope News Nevada, especially the dedicated students involved like Lauren and Carolyn Edgeworth, who you heard from today, in supporting bills like these and participating in these important conversations with the legislature. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits 023, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello, and thank you, Committee Chair Dennis and committee members. My name is Dr. Brenda Pearson, B-R-E-N-D-A-P-E-A-R-S-O-N, and I am here representing the Clark County Education Association. We engage in bipartisan advocacy for advancing public education in Nevada. CCA supports the Senate Bill 249 and thanks Senator Dondero Loop for bringing this bill forward. The inclusion of mental health days teen students a safety net while sending a message to mental health professionals within schools that additional supports may be needed. This session, we have seen a few bills that discuss the types of mental health resources that should be provided on a student ID. Much like Assemblyman Levitt's AB 167, we support this bill. Though the pandemic has exacerbated the mental health crisis in Nevada, the mental health crisis our students face every day is nothing more than a normal occurrence. It is about time that we as Nevadans stand together and give our students the resources they need during this time of crisis. By ensuring the mental health days are available for teens and information to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is readily accessible on the back of every student ID card, students will be given resources that will help and destigmatize mental illness. Thank you again to the committee for hearing this bill, and we look forward to continuing the mental health discussion as it pertains to education, the inclusion of mental health days for teen students, and finding a way to combine this bill with AB 167 to ensure that student IDs are a clear and concise resource for all students.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support on SB 249, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. Let's go to those wishing to give testimony in opposition to the bill. Please add the first caller.
To testify in opposition on SB 249, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Okay, let's go to callers that are anyone wishing to testify who is in neutral on the bill.
If you would like to testify in neutral on SB 249, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Let's give it just another couple seconds, just in case somebody missed one of the other ones and they're just not on yet. And is there anybody in the queue at all?
Yes, there are callers in the queue, but none that are wishing to testify in support or opposition or neutral for this bill.
Okay. All right. So with that, I will I will move back to Senator Dondero Loop. Any closing comments before I close the hearing?
No, Chair, no closing comments. Just to thank you again for allowing me to present this most important bill. And thank you to all the educators and the teens that are working towards a healthy lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, Senator Hammond. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. One quick question, and I noticed that when I was taking notes here, when the young ladies were talking, they talked a little bit about when we could track some of the days, the mental health days. And I was looking through the bill to see if there was anything in there that we could. Do you have an idea? Is this something that you want to do in policy? Each school being different, or did you have an idea of if they take certain numbers of mental health days, is there a trigger that then would tell staff or to talk to parents or something like that? Is there anything in regards to that we can follow in the bill, or some thoughts you have on that, just to make sure that we're following up on them? So I know some days, sometimes you just want to take a mental day, and I get that. We all, as adults, we want to take a mental day. But if they do take 1, 2, 3, is there something that triggers a response from the school?
There is not something that in the bill that triggers a response. I trust our professionals to follow up with those students, the counselors or the behavioral health or teachers to follow up with those students. As you know, Senator Hammond, all bills are usually fluid and we're always working towards a better peace. That may be certainly something that somebody might want to amend in. I was trying to make it as user-friendly for our teens, first and foremost. And second of all, make the capability access for our teens or our parents to be able to work with mental health needs. So with that being said, I don't know that if a student came in and said to a teacher, a counselor, a principal, or whoever, I need a mental health day, or this is what's going on, and had a concern, I can't imagine that that adult at some level would not follow up. You as a parent, you as a teacher, or you as a counselor.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So with that, we'll close the hearing on SB 249, and we will open the hearing on SB 230. Senator Rondero Loop.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair Dennis, and thank you for allowing me to do a second bill today. I'm Marilyn Dondero Loop, representing Senate District 8 in Clark County, and I'm pleased to be here today to present Senate Bill 230. The two bills that I am presenting today both contain various provisions that are interwoven. And while Senate Bill 230 contains several important provisions about students, we just heard the first bill, which focused specifically on student impacts. For this bill, I will provide more of an emphasis on the background and provisions relating to teachers and other school employees, as well as the related needs of healthcare personnel, emergency services employees, and others. Even prior to the coronavirus disease of 2019 pandemic, Nevada's policymakers and education stakeholders were concerned about the mental health and well-being of not only our students, but also teachers and other school personnel. In addition to concerns over pay, class sizes, and hours spent working, teachers have to worry at times about threats and attacks by students and some families. We had some teachers who were attacked, and in a report by the National Center for Education Statistics in the school year, approximately 1 in 10 elementary school teachers were reportedly threatened with injury. And this is not okay that our teachers, they need to be supported, they need to be protected. And in some respects, the unprecedented nature of the pandemic coupled with the distance learning, the only heightened existing concerns and other stresses for many students and teachers were each other and being in that teaching field. We continue to learn more about mental health and illnesses, including best practices in responding to crisis. And it's important that we provide the necessary training to those who might encounter individuals who are experiencing behavioral health issues, including school personnel. Teachers can have a significant influence on kids who are experiencing emotional or mental health crisis. A report released in 2020 by NCES indicates that 85% of lower secondary teachers reported they were able to control disruptive behavior in the classroom quite a bit or longer, and 80% reported that they were being able to calm a student who is disruptive and noisy just by simply having additional training. Many of us and our immediate family members have worked or are still working within schools, so we certainly empathize how stressful and challenging all these jobs can be. It's truly one of the most rewarding careers a person can have. But with that being said, we also have other people that work in schools. We have lunch attendants, we have front office workers, we have custodial staff, we have school bus drivers, we have many, many people who are continuing to focus on the mental health and well-being of our students as our extended family, as we are the teachers or the administration in that school. And these school personnel, as I've said, are our extended family and our extended support staff for those students. So now I would like to talk a little bit about Senate Bill 230 to further support that mental health and well-being of our communities, students, and school personnel. Senate Bill 230 requires school districts and charter schools to report information relating to distance education and its effects on the mental health of pupils and teachers as part of a statewide framework for providing and coordinating integrated student supports, and ensure that all school employees receive training on social emotional trauma. This bill also requires the State Board of Education to adopt regulations related to these requirements. And I'd just like to pause right here for a moment and expand on this point. The intent here is that a required report would examine the mental health of all students and teachers who were in a distance learning format within that past year. We certainly know that this is something that we don't know when it might happen again, and we need to explore. Furthermore, to the extent money is available, Senate Bill 230 would require the Division of Public and Behavioral Health to establish a program that provides training on identifying and assisting those who have mental illness and substance abuse disorders or who may be experiencing a related crisis. Collaborate and inform certain individuals and entities about the program, including healthcare practitioners, our law enforcement officers, school personnel, and others who may benefit. And submit a report regarding information about the program to the governor and the legislature. The training must be provided by a person who has successfully completed a mental health first aid instructor's program. There have been some discussion with some school districts about amendments regarding this, and I welcome those ongoing discussions. This bill was really meant that I really wanted, like I said, our office workers, our custodial staff, our lunch attendants, whoever may be in a school, our aides, that support personnel to have the opportunity to also be trained just as the certificated staff of teachers and administrators are. So in closing, I would like to reiterate that this legislature has continued to focus on mental health and well-being of students and school personnel and on school climate in general by directing additional resources and other efforts to address this important topic. Certainly, the pandemic has had a negative effect on the mental health of our teachers, school personnel, and all others. Just last week, I read a report out of Illinois that showed teacher retirements spiking in the summer and fall of 2020. These stressful and challenging times ultimately worsened our state's already dire teacher shortage situation. So with that, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, this concludes my presentation. I urge the support of Senate Bill 230, which furthers our efforts to address mental health needs within our public school community and charter school communities, and provides additional support for all our school personnel and students. And thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Senator Donate.
Thank you, Chair Dennis, and thank you, Vice Chair Dondera for bringing this bill forward. I think whenever we talk about the health of our students, we always, we talk about like revisions of how we should make to physical education and health education, but we always forget about mental health. And so this is a really, really awesome bill in collaboration with the other bill that you're proposing. I'm fully supportive of it. Thank you for taking the time to do that. The one thing that I wanted to just mention, I'm looking at specifically the section on, I believe it's section 3 all the way down, when it talks about compiling a report that talks about the people who have been trained by the program, the number of training sessions. It'd be interesting if that report can also guide us in terms of the lack of gaps that are observed within each school. For instance, perhaps we can see like the impacts that counselors have because they can't take on all the workload that means not just in terms of developing the schedules for the students, but also being a mental health resource to some students and and also working the social work aspect of that job. So maybe if that report can pull some of that information too as to what school districts need to better support the infrastructure of counselors, maybe that might be something that we can pull in that report, but I'm open to hearing your feedback on that. But this is a really good bill, and thank you so much for bringing it forward.
Thank you so much, Senator Donate. I certainly appreciate and take in your message, and I will look into that. Thank you very much. I think moving forward, the more information we have, the better we can do. So thank you.
Other questions? I have a question. So in the report, in section 1, subsection whatever, on the third page down on line 35, where it says requires school districts and charter schools to report information relating to distance education and the effects of distance education on mental health. They don't currently do that, correct?
They do not currently do that. And within my comments, that's why I sort of stopped to pause there and explain that, Chair, because even though we have distance education available to our students currently, This past year, we have never experienced anything like this before. And so I think it's an unfortunate but very good opportunity for us to stop and gather that information. So with that being said, I would like to see that information done on how this distance education has affected our students.
Okay, I would just have a concern only that if they don't currently do it and they, and the effects of education, obviously they'd have to have someone that knows about this to be able to help them, with all the things that they have to do, especially to catch kids up, how that would affect them. But maybe we'll hear from some of the districts that can talk about how that might impact their ability to actually, because I think that if in passing this, they would want to be able to comply with it. So we want to make sure that whatever we ask of them is something that they can do. So that's my only concern there.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I would just point that the intent here is that required report would examine the mental health of all students and teachers who were in the distance learning format within the past year. So thank you very much. Thank you. And okay, yeah. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Senator Lang and Senator Buck. We'll go to Senator Lang first, and then we'll go to Senator Buck.
Thank you, Chair. In looking at this bill, Senator Dondero, it says on the front that it contains an unfunded mandate. And so I'm wondering if the unfunded mandate, I'm just trying to figure out where it is. And I'm wondering if it's in section 3 about providing the training. Have you heard?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, that is one of the funding pieces. My original thought was that as a teacher, I know that I had many trainings and we were the ones in the training. My thought was, wouldn't it be great if we could pull in one office worker or a lunch attendant or one custodian when we had those trainings? That would not cost additional funding, but it would be within our training that they would hear. And over time, we would train that personnel, that support personnel. The other reason that it is to the extent money is available is because, of course, eventually we would like to establish a program that provides training on identifying and assisting those who have a mental illness, substance abuse, or experience a related crisis. We know that some of those things are in place, but there may be a school or a school district or a charter school that does not have those in place. So I would just hope that once again that this training is somewhat in place and that we can start to incorporate that within our school districts. Thank you.
Thank you. And a follow-up, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So, Senator, don't school districts have in-service days, and couldn't they just incorporate this into their in-service days so then it would be cost neutral, revenue neutral?
That's exactly what I just described.
Okay, yeah. I was on the same page.
Described. Yes, and I know that all schools are training on this. So yeah. I'm hoping that we can pull in that support personnel and continue to incorporate, because the more of us, and I say us, all of us in our communities know, the better off we are all going to be moving forward. So thank you. Yes.
Thank you. So Chair Dennis, I am, as we look at bills in this session, and when they have unfunded mandates on that, they become a little bit troublesome. So I'm just wondering, I really want this bill to pass. And so I'm wondering how we can get consideration that it can be done on in-service days and be revenue neutral, because I hate to have the fact that it says on the front that it's an unfunded mandate to hurt the passing of the bill.
Yeah, so I think we'll probably hear from school districts and others on where their concerns are.
Okay.
I would think that the other place that there might be a funding issue is on the report, but I want to hear that from them if that's an issue, but so,
Right.
okay.
Thank you.
If I could respond quickly to Senator Lang. Senator Lang, all bills, if they appear to have a fiscal note, are sent out to the agencies. The agencies get to decide if that's a fiscal note or not. So this bill has been sent out. So if they decide it needs a fiscal note, they'll certainly attach it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Senator Buck.
So thank you, Chair Dennis, and also Chair or Vice Chair Marilyn Dondera Loop. I just had a few questions in that I was looking through what the training must entail. And, you know, if in the trenches, when you implement these trainings, we already have about 6 to 8 hours worth of trainings, how to get on and off a bus, you know, get students on and off a bus, sexual, you know, harassment trainings. There's a plethora of trainings. And so I was wondering if this training could just be incorporated in that. I know that a lot of times it's watch all these videos and sign a signature page that you watch that video, and it is required by all staff to do most of them. So I've rarely been in a building or a principal of a building where it's just partial staff. So I guess I was just wondering, like, if we could combine this with another training that is a requirement of a school district already.
Thank you, Senator Buck, for the question. I may not have been clear in my answer. This would be a training on mental awareness and behavioral issues within the staff. And as you have said, there are many trainings that go on in schools to make sure our students are safe, whether they enter and exit a bus or whether it's mental health. But what the thought is that we don't always incorporate those support personnel within that training. So I would, my wish would be that this would be an in-person training that we do either on a staff development day, not just some video that we watch. I would like it to be in person and have really good questions and involve that support personnel in that school.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you. Okay, other questions? Senator Hammond, did you raise your hand? Yep.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you again. Madam Vice Chair, the only question is you're talking about linking this up with some of the other staff, the teachers. I know that some of the schools, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've probably done a lot of research here already because you've wanted to prepare the bill. Safe Voice is something that a lot of training is happening on that. Is there any way to sort of link it so that you require some of the staff to sit in on that and help out? Is that something that might be doable?
Absolutely, Senator Hammond. Those are all of the above. We have some schools that already have, for example, teen groups within their school. We have some schools that have Safe Voice. We have all kinds of resources out there. I just want to make sure that the resources that are out there are being used and our support personnel are being pulled in so that they're part of the solution as well.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Senator Hammond? You're good? Okay. Any other questions? Anyone else? Okay. I don't see anyone else at this point. So let's go then to testimony in support of SB 230, and if BPS could add the first caller.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support on SB 230, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, if you'd like to testify in support on SB 230, please press *9 now. Caller with the last three digits, 727, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you again, Senator Don Loop, for your support on this bill. My name is Trin Dang, TRINHDANG. I'm Executive Director of NAMI Southern Nevada, and again, we are a mental health nonprofit in our community that provides education, support, and advocacy to families and individuals affected by mental health. And one of our goals is to raise mental health awareness while decreasing mental health stigma. In support of SB 230, we do need to know the baseline of how distance learning is affecting our youth and teachers' mental health in order to address it and know whether we're making progress in the right direction. Making sure that our youth is safe is not just the job of a school counselor, but all adults and individuals that work with and impact the lives of youth. The more trauma-informed adults we have, whether it's a pandemic or not, because trauma still happens without a pandemic, the more awareness we have, the earlier we can intervene and get youth the help they need and deserve before it's too late, as we've seen with some of our youth already. Teachers need the support and training to be aware of what our youth are going through. We don't expect teachers to provide treatment, of course, but as a former teacher myself, having taught elementary, middle, and high school, it's evident that when a child's social and emotional needs are not being met, they have a difficult time learning and achieving academic success. We do a disservice to our youth and children when we don't equip our teachers to properly care for them. Prior to leaving California in 2016, I saw that Los Angeles Unified School District and Garden Grove Unified School District in California had began providing professional development in social and emotional learning for teachers and school staff. Being trauma-informed should be prioritized just as we do with child abuse training. It's not enough to just identify physical, emotional, sexual abuse and report it. We need to be able to identify the symptoms of trauma and learn how to better respond to de-escalate the situation. So I'm in full support of SB 230, just to raise more mental health awareness across the board for all of our educators and staff. Thank you.
Can you, before you go on, can you state your name again and spell it for the record? Did we lose her?
Sorry, Chair, one second as I work on getting her unmuted.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the Education Committee. My name.
Sorry, Chair, it looks like we lost her, but if she comes back, I could go ahead and unmute her again.
Okay, yeah, I just needed to make, we didn't get her name clearly, so we need to get
She's
that.
actually she's actually in the list. I just found her. Please stand by as I unmute her mic.
Okay.
Caller with the last three digits, 727. Can you please state your name and spell it out?
Yes, it's Trin Dang, T like Tom, R-I-N like Nancy, H, D like David, A, N like Nancy, G like George.
Thank you so much, caller.
All right, thank you. So if we could go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 023. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello, and thank you, Committee Chair Dennis and committee members. My name is Brenda Pearson, Brenda Pearson, and I am here representing the Clark County Education Association. We engage in bipartisan advocacy for advancing public education in Nevada. CCEA is testifying in support on Senate Bill 230. The pandemic continues to highlight the structural neglect and the lack of prioritization of the mental health resources we provide our students in Nevada. Senate Bill 230 creates opportunities for educators to develop and strengthen their ability to identify potential mental health and substance use disorders. Knowledge is power, and we know that educators are keenly aware of minute changes in the affect and disposition of students in their care. Additionally, the requirement for all those who provide training to participate in a mental health first aid course ensures the accuracy and consistency of information shared with school staff. Often overseen is the plight of the educator in terms of mental health and resources. One astute educator serving in an at-risk middle school in CCSD described the experience of distance learning during the pandemic as compassion fatigue. A constant focus on the wellness of students requires a level of compassion and empathy in all actions. Although Senate Bill 230 calls for the submission of a report on the effects of distance education on education on educators, CCA believes that this will only reveal the much needed support our educators need as well. CCA thanks the sponsors of this bill for bringing it forth, and we caution the sponsor to consider the definition of distance education at this time and how it may evolve post-pandemic and in the future. We must ensure that these supports are long-term and that we continue to build awareness and understanding of mental health and substance use disorders in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 178, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Keely Killian, Keeli Killian. I'm calling as the Nevada School Counselor Association past president and chair of our Governmental Affairs Committee. I'm here to speak about SB 230, and we would like to thank Chair Dennis and Vice Chair Dondero Loop and members of the committee for hearing our testimony today. We are in support of this bill. We think it's extremely important that we bring mental health to the forefront and needs in education, especially for our support staff. We're excited to hear about training for educators regarding mental health and substance use identification, and we're always working towards reducing stigma and promoting healing, recovery, and good mental health. A few of the considerations that we had a discussion with our Governmental Affairs Committee were that we really think that the mental health first aid training is extremely comprehensive. The concern that came up is it's an 8-hour training for staff, and it's a little bit costly. So the Nevada School Counselor Association would be willing to partner with the division, our other state agencies, community mental health professionals, to possibly develop a standardized statewide training for educators similar to mental health first aid training, but that would be flexible to educator and support staff schedules, and possibly be delivered asynchronously or virtually, but in person. Also, school counselors are uniquely qualified to provide training for staff. The American School Counseling Association already has 5-credit 50-hour courses in mental health training and trauma and crisis specialist trainings, which helps to make them uniquely qualified. And although we don't want to add a burden to school counselors, we do want to place them in a position as specialists to work with other agencies in developing a training. Secondly, we do have some concerns as to when the training would be offered, and so that's why we would recommend something that is flexible and possibly asynchronously. We want to definitely thank Senator Dondero Loop for all of her work related to promoting mental health and bringing awareness to education, and we are in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 080, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hi, Jim Hoffman, Hoffman, Nevada Attorneys for Criminal Justice. NACJ supports SB 230. In particular, we are supportive of Section 3 of the bill, which establishes a training program for people who deal with mental health crises, separate from the program for school employees in the prior sections. This program would be a valuable tool for law enforcement to enable them to respond effectively and safely to people in mental health crises without endangering those people's lives. Ultimately, this is a good bill and NACJ supports it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 080, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the Senate Education Committee. For the record, my name is Leonardo Benavides, LEONARDO BENAVIDES, here representing the Clark County School District, testifying in support of SB 230. It's no secret to anyone that this past year has been difficult on many of our students. That's why it's important that we're able to provide the support students need, whether through training for our staff on social and emotional trauma or through the integrated support services we provide to our students. We are currently working with Senator Don Luke on an amendment that will address the reporting aspect of this bill in order to better focus on those integrated support services and how they best serve our students. The more clarity we have in the language, the better we are able to comply with the intent of the law. So we want to thank her for working with us to ensure this bill provides the appropriate reporting that truly tracks the resources and supports we are giving to our students in the area of mental health. So I want to thank Senator Don Luke for bringing forth this bill today so we can discuss this important matter with you. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. We could go to the next caller.
If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support on SB 230, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. So let's go to those that are, now we will hear testimony in opposition to the bill. Please add the next caller.
Yes, Chair. If you would like to testify in opposition on SB 230, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, if you'd like to testify in opposition on SB 230, please press *9 now. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. So let's go then to those who wishing to testify in neutral on this bill.
If you would like to testify in neutral on SB 230, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Okay. Let's come back to Senator Don Luke. Any closing comments?
I'd just like to thank you again, Chair Dennis and members of the committee for your time today and listening to these two most important bills. And I'd just like to let everyone know I appreciate your efforts in furthering our efforts in addressing mental health needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And with that, we will go ahead and close the hearing on SB 230. And we will next go to our next bill, which is SB 280. We'll open the hearing on SB 287. With that, let me make sure we got our presenter here.
I'm here, Chair Dennis.
Okay. Please proceed when you're ready.
All right. Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and committee members. I'm Dallas Harris, representing Senate District 11 in Clark County. Before I begin my presentation, I'd like to bring your attention to two amendments posted on Nellis that substantially revise this bill. I have the first amendment posted yesterday. However, during the afternoon and evening, stakeholders continued to work on this measure. We can set aside the First Amendment, and I consider the Second Amendment posted by the Nevada Association of Counties to be a friendly amendment. My remarks today will focus on this amendment as proposed by NACO. Basically, what we're proposing is to delete the original SB 237 and insert this amendment in its place. Senate Bill 287 clarifies that the land grant status of the University of Nevada applies to the campuses of the university, which include the Desert Research Institute, DRI, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV, and University of Nevada, Reno, UNR. We're proposing this change to allow cooperative extension programs to be more responsive to the communities they serve. With me today are Maureen Schaefer and Gina Bongiovi, I hope I said that correctly, who provide some additional information concerning the need for this bill following my brief introduction. In 1862, the United States Congress passed the Morrill Land Grant Act. This act helped fund universities and colleges by granting federally controlled land to the states to create land grant schools. The states could either develop the land or sell it to raise funds for the college. The focus of these institutions was to teach agriculture and the mechanical arts. The University of Nevada was established in 1874 under the act to provide agriculture and mechanical education in the state. In 1914, President Woodrow Wilson expanded the scope of land-grant universities' charge when he signed the Smith-Lever Act, which established the cooperative extension system. The cooperative extension was a way for the general public to interact with and gain value from universities, fostering the sharing of ideas from university research to share problems, mainly in the areas of agriculture, energy, and home economics. While many Americans no longer farm or pursue home economics for a living, the research shared within the cooperative extension system still benefits communities by focusing on areas like disaster recovery and mitigation, energy independence, food supplies, public health, and workforce training. The bill before you today provides clarification that the land grant status applies to all 3 research institution campuses of the University of Nevada, allowing them to become eligible to receive federal funds to run regional cooperative extension programs. We're going to go ahead and go through sections of the bill at this point. In the original bill, sections 1 through 5 are proposed to be deleted. Section 6 specifies that the state land grant institutions in the University of Nevada are UNLV, UNR, and the DRI. This will become section 1 under the amendment. Sections 7 through 11 are also proposed to be deleted. A new section 2 instead requires the chancellor of the Nevada System of Higher Education to develop a plan to manage the assets and resources of the state land grant institutions based upon the designation of land grant status. The plan must be submitted to the Legislative Council Bureau and the governor no later than February 1st, 2023. Chancellor is authorized to base the plan in whole or part upon agreements negotiated and reached between the land grant institutions, establish committees, and employ consultants and personnel to develop the plan. A new section 3 addresses federal, county, or state funding currently allocated under NRS 396.690 through NRS 396.790 shall continue to be appropriated to the extension and experiment station programs. The new section 4 sets forth the effective date of the measure. Mr. Chair, this concludes my portion of the presentation. With your permission, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Schaefer and Ms. Bongiovi to provide additional information at this time. After their remarks, we will be available to answer any questions that you may have. We also have Mr. David Demore and Mr. Joe Reynolds. Good to see you, former Commissioner Reynolds, who will be available to answer technical questions. And with your permission, I'd like to invite Ms. Schaefer to begin.
Yes, please proceed. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the committee. My name is Maureen Schaefer, M-A-U-R-E-E-N, Schaefer, S-C-H-A-F-E-R, and I'm testifying on behalf of the Council for a Better Nevada, a group of leaders representing business, labor, and philanthropy, and who engage in issues that impact a higher quality of life for all Nevadans. The Council testifies in enthusiastic support for SB 287 and sincerely thanks Senator Harris for bringing the bill forward for the committee's consideration. SB 287 simply acknowledges and reaffirms what is currently in place, that UNLV and DRI are also, along with UNR, existing designated higher education land-grant research institutions in Nevada, and therefore should be able to openly pursue the benefits for themselves and their communities associated with that status. Among the benefits that land-grant status confers to universities are improved prospects for accessing federal research grants and greater faculty engagement in local community studies and outreach projects. With legislative clarification of this status, which is very important for all three institutions, gone will be the days of faculty foregoing federal applications for grants that were opportunistic simply because UNLV and DRI believed they were, quote, not land grant, or that faculty were requested to ask for permission on a case-by-case basis. In addition, this needed clarification will now create a funding scenario where, as a state, we can now watch as the federal funding pie will grow significantly, with now 3 active institutions seeking federal research grants instead of simply 1, with no bureaucratic barriers to hold all of us back. The prospects of this reality going forward is very exciting, as Nevada struggles to seek its fair share in federal funds in many areas, not just higher education funding compared to our other sister states, let alone in higher education funding. This one way we can begin to make up a significant difference in federal funding fair share and begin to grow the higher education federal funding pie and become more competitive with other states who capture more federal funding dollars on an annual basis. Research dollars also innovate and attract new companies and jobs. With UNR and UNLV now having both reached R1 Carnegie status, very exciting, the ability to actively and aggressively seek out federal research funding with DRI and UNLV brings a new level of awareness to the marketplace, to the ideas and discovery taking place throughout Nevada, and with its research institution being able to capture and bring home federal research dollars. Companies will want to be near this energy and these future discoveries. This clarification is good for higher education, good for research, good for economic development, good for faculty and students, and wonderful for all of Nevada. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, the Council for a Better Nevada urges you to support clarification of land-grant status for UNLV, DRI, and we urge you to pass SB 287. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Senator Harris, you had somebody else, right? Or
I do, Ms. Bongiovi, and please, if you're ready, go ahead.
I'm ready. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chair and the members of the committee. For the record, Gina Bongiovi, just like the band, Bongiovi, Managing Partner of Bongiovi Law Firm and Chair of the Board of Trustees for the Vegas Chamber. The Vegas Chamber is in support of Senate Bill 287 and appreciates the work that Senator Harris, the bill sponsor, has done to bring this proposal forward today. I would also like to state that the Chamber is in support of a conceptual amendment that would remove the cooperative extension and land sale sections of the bill. And the Chamber is supportive of the primary tenets of the bill, the clarification of the designation status of land-grant institutions in Nevada. We view SB 287 as a necessary step to codify into state law what we believe is the already accepted view that UNR, UNLV, and DRI are all land-grant status institutions. As you have heard, Harvey Dickerson, Nevada Attorney General, published opinion number 69-556 on January 23, 1969, which states these 3 institutions that I have mentioned are considered land-grant status because of the university system structure we have here in Nevada. I quote, "The University of Nevada system, consisting of the University of Nevada, Reno, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and the Desert Research Institute, is the only land-grant institution within the state of Nevada. The components of the system may not hold individual land-grant status separate and apart from the system," unquote. In 2004, the system office reaffirmed these 3 institutions as being part of the land-grant status in an opinion written by Kwesi Nyemkai, hopefully I didn't butcher that, Assistant General Counsel. We believe that codifying these opinions will only benefit the 3 institutions as the federal government provides research funds, often with state matching requirements, to land-grant institutions. Research by universities typically leads to innovation, helps increase national ranking, and attracts top-tier faculty and staff to their campuses. Most importantly, additional research activity on a campus benefits the students. It provides research opportunities, collaboration among faculty and students, and increases the value of the student's degree. Surveys have confirmed that students who are more engaged in research activities have higher GPAs, are more likely to graduate within 4 years, and plan to attend graduate school. For the Chamber, clarifying the land grant status will open the door to bring more federal dollars into the state, which has been a long-standing priority of our organization. It will help with student achievement and better prepare students for careers once they graduate. From that perspective, then, we believe this bill will also support workforce development efforts in Southern Nevada. This is essential as we work together to recover from the devastating efforts of the COVID-19 pandemic. We believe this is an important step forward to grow and expand our institutions of higher education and the thousands of students currently enrolled in their campuses. For those reasons, Chair and the members of the committee, we ask you for support in the passage of SB 287. Thank you.
Senator Harris, do we have someone else? Or?
No, that would conclude the bill presentation. We're available for questions at this time.
Okay, do we have questions? Senator Buck.
Thank you, Chair Dennis, and thank you, Senator Harris. I was just wondering, is this a finite amount of money, or is this a finite amount of money that we're talking about that the state gets, or would this truly open up to more universities getting greater resources?
Thank you for the question, Senator Buck. To you, Chair, if I could ask maybe Mr. Reynolds to answer that question, or Ms. Bon Jovi, that'd be greatly appreciated.
My name is Joe Reynolds, Joerey Nolds, and I'm the Chief Legal Counsel for the Nevada System of Higher Education. Prior to answering that question, Senator Harris and Senator Buck, and through to the Chair, if I'd be permitted to make a brief statement with your indulgence.
Yes, go ahead.
No, thank you. And thank you. I'd like to thank you, Chair Dennis and Vice Chair Dondero Loop, and members of the committee, and Senator Harris for the opportunity to speak today. Initially, I'd just like to state on behalf of the Board of Regents and INCHE that they take a neutral position as to the underlying policy regarding the amended version of the bill. But one of the reasons I've been asked to speak today is to share my legal opinion on the underlying constitutional questions that is now what's set forth in Section 1 of the amended bill and was previously in Section 6 of the bill. And that discrete issue is whether the legislature has the constitutional authority to recognize UNLV and DRI, in addition to UNR, as land-grant institutions. And the short answer to the question is yes, I do. And if I could give just a brief explanation of my reasoning, Mr. Chair.
Please, go ahead.
Thank you, and I agree with the legal analysis that has already been provided by Ms. Bon Jovi as well as Senator Harris, but would like to add Article 11 of the Nevada Constitution, and specifically Sections 4, 7, and 8, address higher education in the state. And there is no specific institution or even location that are identified in those constitutional provisions. Only the legal phrase, as you've heard, is state university. Now, the legislature has already identified what state university means in statute in NRS 396-020. And the legislature has stated that it's a University of Nevada that includes both UNR as well as UNLV and the other higher education institutions in the state. And taking a step back, when the authority or when the Constitution of the state was adopted in 1864, no university existed. Rather, it was not until 10 years later, after our Constitution was adopted, before our first institution was founded, as Senator Harris mentioned in Elko. And it was 10 years after that before the University of Nevada, Reno was ultimately established in Reno. I think this history belies any premise that the initial constitutional provisions were directed at any specific location or building or institution, in that the name of an institution or the history on which it was established doesn't define its constitutional status. UNLV started as an extension of UNR and became independently recognized in 1957. And as such, the constitutional foundations of UNR extend to UNLV. And to be clear, it's my opinion that UNLV and UNR, as well as DRI, have equal constitutional status, and neither institution has a superior constitutional claim or status over the other. The constitutional provisions that you've heard Senator Harris reference in Article 11 specifically express an intent to establish departments pursuant to the Morrill Act to promote agriculture, mining, and mechanical arts, which is often understood to be engineering. And a department is an academic division and a faculty unit. It's not that is directed towards a discipline or a field of study. It's, again, not necessarily a building or a specific institution. And in reaching my conclusion, I note that the United States Supreme Court, the highest court in our nation, issued a 1907 opinion confirming the view when analyzing the second Morrill Act, that it is so obvious that these appropriations are made to the states and not to any institutions within the state, and that the states acting through their legislatures are to expend the appropriations in accordance with the trust imposed upon them. And so finally, just to sum up, it's my legal conclusion, which is consistent with what you've heard from our state's top legal officer, the Nevada Attorney General in 1969, that supported this conclusion. And while I don't want to speak for the Legislative Council Bureau and Mr. Killiam and Ms. Stern, it's also my understanding that LCB also expressed this view in 2017 when addressing AB 407 that contained a similar provision. And with that, I'd just like to thank the committee for allowing me to put this statement on the record and to speak, and the opportunity for the bill sponsors to address some of our concerns with the initial language in the bill. And if it's okay to answer Senator Buck's question, with respect to the section 2 in the amended language, it's to develop a plan to manage the assets and resources. And one of the tasks in that would be to identify specifically what those are. And certainly with the land grant status, there is not only a initial conveyance of land, but with it, as you've heard, opportunities for further grant funding and expand research into the fields of agriculture and mining and the mechanical arts.
Senator Buck?
If I may have a follow-up. So is it a finite amount of money that is coming that has to be divided? And then why wasn't that divided anyway if it's one institution?
The short answer to the question, Senator Buck, is I don't know. And that's the reason, one of the reasons that we requested for an additional plan regarding these resources and assets. Again, I'm here speaking as a lawyer, and it's not that the information isn't out there. I just don't have it with me today.
Okay, other questions? Senator Lang, and then I think Senator Hammond.
Hi, thank you. This is probably a legal question, but I am just curious how, I think you said, but I'm not really sure, how someone becomes a land grant institution, and why I'm very concerned that Nevada State College isn't considered a land grant institution when they service the minority communities in our state, and they're growing, and they have a full liberal arts program, and now they are starting to offer a master's program. How can we get them included into being a land grant institution?
I'll start if that's okay, then I'll kick it to you, Mr. Reynolds to follow up if you'd like. Senator Lang, I think it's something that we can look at, but I believe the answer is University of Nevada has traditionally been kind of limited in that land grant sense to UNR, hence why they think they own the name. But clearly we know that the University of Nevada has grown to include University of Nevada, Las Vegas, as well as the Desert Research Institute, and Nevada State College as a state college serves a separate function. Mr. Reynolds?
Yeah, thank you, Senator Harris. That is a good question because there's certainly common constitutional underpinnings. As far as the original designation, that was something that was bestowed by Congress and was delegated to state legislatures to make the determination. Thus, at least my opinion, that this legislature has authority to make those decisions. There is a strong component of land grant status directly connected to research, which I believe is why the original sponsors of this bill were focusing on our major R1 research institutions, as well as the Desert Research Institute.
Could I do a follow-up?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I understand that. I think that, you know, the Henderson State College wasn't even thought of back then, right? And they have grown and grown and grown, and they have lots of land, everything. They've built one dormitory in the last year. And I think that in order for them to continue to grow and service the population that they're serving, all the money they need to do these improvements and to build these buildings are given through grants or given money raised. And so I just, so what would you say, because I'm not sure I got it from you, is the pathway for them to be included in as a land grant school, or is there a pathway?
Joe Reynolds, through the chair to Senator Buck. My initial recommendation on that would be to study that issue and to gather further information and analysis on what actually that would entail.
Okay.
Senator Harris, could you, because we've got a lot of new folks on the committee, could you explain what the purpose of land grant status is? I mean, what could they do, and what, you know, and what is it that they do with that?
So thank you for the question, Chair Dennis. I think Mr. Reynolds kind of hit on the key, and the key there is the research portion, that ability to share information, and then the kind of cooperative extensions and unique programs that they're able to set up to benefit the community.
Thank you. Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I actually co-sponsored that bill back in, I think, 2017. I'm not sure if that's the same one, but I did sponsor one with the former Assemblywoman Olivia Diaz. And some of the concerns that we brought up are being brought up again here. And of course, the confirmation on what, you know, what universities constitute the part of the land grant status. The newest claim here that I did not see, I don't think we addressed in our bill back a couple of sessions ago was the access to more dollars coming from grants. I'm curious to know a little bit more about that. But one of the things I did notice that Dr. Lyles is in the audience here. One of the things that we brought out in the bill a couple of years ago was the fact that there were programs, money that was not being spent in certain areas, especially in Clark County. You know, part of the whole process is there are monies that that come in into each county. The county raises, there are certain funds that come in, and they're unique to the counties, and they have to be spent in those counties. And that was my biggest concern of that particular bill, was that they weren't really spending. They had millions of dollars in reserve and they weren't spending them. And the whole idea of having that money was be spent on programs. So I was hoping that either Senator Harris, you could elaborate a little bit more on how that is going compared to, even 4 or 5 years ago. And I certainly would love to hear from Dr. Lyles to tell us what he is doing in Clark County. What kind of youth programs have they created or started or have really developed over time?
Thank you for the question, Senator Hammond. Dallas Harris for the record. Unfortunately, I am not an expert in how those dollars flow down to the localities and how they're being spent. But so I'll have to turn it over to Mr. Lyles to discuss a little bit about what he's got going on down south, and I will commit to you to do a little bit of digging and get an answer for you.
Dr. Lyles.
Thank you, Chair Dennis. The programs that are being developed down south are numerous according to the Nevada Revised Statute. There are in 6 basic areas. We have all of those programs that we offer in the South. We have a robust agriculture program, natural resource, horticulture. Many of you may know the term Master Gardener. The Families program, including our 4-H program, has over 2,700 young people, 27,000 young people enrolled annually, and of course our nutrition program. Those are the 6 core programs that the Nevada Revised Statute require us to implement. The second part of Senator Hammond's question is on the funding. I arrived here shortly after the end of the 2017 session, so I was not part of that conversation. But understanding all of the dynamics that had occurred, I immediately started working with the county commissioners since, again, the Nevada Revised Statutes say we must work in unison and partnership with county commissioners. Together, we developed a spend down plan for Clark County funded, and we're in the process of implementing that plan. 2 quick components of it that we're currently implementing is a new satellite office in North Las Vegas to better serve the Hispanic community located there, and a new satellite office in Southwest Las Vegas to deal more with the population of the rural part of the county in consultation with Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Dr. Lyles. So in short, I guess there just more activity in the South since 2017, money, programs, presence. I mean, one of the things you mentioned is that your work with the county commission. If I'm not mistaken, you also established an advisory board. Can you tell us a little bit more about that if the chair would allow?
Yeah. Yes, and before I do that, I just want to remind everybody on, if you're not speaking, if you could mute, because we're having some issues, or at least I'm having some issues hearing on some of this. I think it's because some of the folks who are unmuted, so if everybody could mute. Thank you. Yeah, I would allow that, Dr. Lyles, if you want to elaborate on that.
Again, Ivory Lyles, Director of Cooperative Extension for the state of Nevada. And I'm pleased to see one of the members of our advisory council on today. Again, because we wanted a broad base of support, we have established a 25-member advisory council to advise on program as dictated by federal law. The membership is almost equally divided between north, south, urban, rural, suburban. It has several people and names that you would recognize from Southern Nevada, like Peter Guzman and others from that part of the state, the Asian Chamber of Commerce, Anna Woods. It also has members from Washoe County and Elko County. It is a diverse and representative group for the state. We typically meet quarterly. During the pandemic, we've been doing it by Zoom, and we update on new programs that's coming, being developed. We talk about futuristic programs that we need to develop, and we seek their input and advice in the direction that we should move within cooperative extension.
Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and turn the time over. I appreciate that update. You know, when we introduced that bill years ago, and of course we're seeking some of the answers that are in this particular bill, but mostly we really wanted to see a greater input and presence here in Southern Nevada. And I think from what I've heard, and I keep hearing from other people, that we're seeing that your presence, although stationed up here in the north, you're down in the south quite often. So I just wanted to make sure I understood where we are now compared to where we were. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the indulgence, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Senator Donate.
Thank you so much, Chair Dennis. And thank you to Senator Harris for bringing this idea forward. I think it's great when we can open federal funding for our state universities, especially when our higher ed system is already so underfunded compared to other states. So thank you for taking that initiative. I have a really simple, quick question. If you can please clarify, do you know if other states have more than one land grant institution? That's pretty much it.
I'll turn that over to Mr. Demore, who is the kind of land grant expert. Mr. Demore, are you aware of states having multiple institutions under their land grant?
Yeah, all you have to do is look at California. This is sort of the proposed model that was in the original part of that bill is based upon the California model. It's anchored out of the Davis campus, but you have other campuses, most notably in Riverside, that deal with the southern part of the state. So that's sort of the model. And again, it's a very similar structure. And if you look at sort of the overall structure of the board, it's really based upon the California model, right? A single University of Nevada, a single University of California with different branches to it. And when they add a new University of California, like when they did Merced, there's not a dispute if they're in the land grant. They are able to access land grant. There was a question earlier from Senator Buck I just wanted to touch on, and Dr. Lyles can certainly speak to this as well. The state does get some money every year for this, but then there's also grants that are available that allow, and the real advantage of the land grant grants is they reduce the state match, which is, I think, is nice. The state has to put up less money there, and then there's certain grants that are just simply available only to these schools. The broader issue, and I think what sort of motivated some of this background on the bill here, is the way that NRS is written. The entire NCHI is the University of Nevada, right? And there creates this sort of, when we voted on question 1 last time, we were voting on who was going to govern the land grant. Because the land grant is defined as all of NCHI, all of that is part of this thing. And if you look, all you have to do is look at NCHI's for the fiscal year reports, and they will claim Nevada System of Higher Education is the state-supported land grant institution. So this is, you can sort of think at one level, it's all of NCHI. Here we're just trying to reduce the access to 2 or 3 questions, institutions, to make sure that it's clear that those that have the primary research focus are able to access this without having to jump through a lot of legal hoops. And if you know the paper trail on this, you'll see there's quite a bit of a legal opinion on that.
Thank you. Actually, before we go on, earlier I think LCB was referenced there, and we've got our legal counsel, Asher Killian, here that maybe can, at least since that was brought up, I want him to kind of chime in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. And I'll just say that I agree generally with what Mr. Reynolds said. LCB's opinion as an office is similar to the Regent's opinion that Article 11, Section 4 of the Nevada Constitution empowers the legislature to establish a state university. And the state university that the legislature has established is the University of Nevada, which happens to have campuses in multiple locations, but is a single University of Nevada. Article 11, Section 8 of the Nevada Constitution reserves The Morrill Act funds exclusively for the state university, which the legislature has established as the University of Nevada, which includes these multiple campuses. So our opinion as an office is similar to the region's opinion that land grant status attaches to the state university, and the legislature has exercised its power under Article 11, Section 4 to create the University of Nevada, including all of its campuses, as a land grant university.
Thank you. Okay, other questions? I'm not seeing any hands. I do have a couple. So as I've listened to the discussion, how would overall would this give us the ability to raise more money because of added institutions to be able to do the research and other programs?
Thank you for the question, Chair Dennis. I'll defer to Mr. Demore as the expert.
Absolutely, it would allow us to access the federal grants for land grants, right? That's something that, again, without the barriers, right? One of the things we find is there's a lot of back and forth, and there's from the AB 407 exhibits, you see this back and forth with the USDA on this kind of thing, and this would just be a point to the statute and say, here we go. So that I think would improve it. I think also there is just this idea of, absolutely bringing in more money, more partnerships, more collaboration, all the things that we need to do that. Grow that pie of the funding is what we're trying to do here, and make use of leverage our resources in the state as best as we can. That's the goal here.
Okay, and kind of the follow-up to that was, so how would this impact all the things that are currently going on? We heard Dr. Lyles earlier talk about the different programs that they're offering. How would this impact the things that they're doing if we were to do this?
I don't think, he can speak to that directly, but I don't think it would have any impact on it, particularly if the amendment is adopted by this bill. This would just simply study if this is an idea to break up, say, the Administration for Cooperative Extension. Nothing's going to change in the short term of this, except that UNLV would then be much easier for faculty at UNLV to go and apply for those grants.
I see. Dr. Lyles, do you want to chime in on that?
Thank you, Chair Dennis. Ivor Lyles, Director of Cooperative Extension, for the record. If I may, I'd like to chime in on about 3 things I've heard recently. One is the dollar amount, and is there a finite amount of funding? And I had experience with this when I was in Mississippi. Congressman Fudge from Ohio introduced Central State as a new 1890 land grant institution. At that time, there were no new dollars appropriated for the addition of Central State. And so the 1890s had to split the current funding among 20 rather than 19 of the federal dollars. I want to be very specific on that. So as we study the issue, there is some precedent out there that we can take a look at. To be a land grant institution from the federal perspective, there's 4 laws that fully need to be explored and understood. The Morrill Act of 1862, the Morrill Act of 1890, the Hatch Act, and the Smith-Lever Act. It's those 4 laws that create a 3-legged stool that forms the land grant university. The Morrill Act of 1862 and 1890 is basically the same. They simply designate the difference between, because of the time of separate but equal. And so there's no conflict there, but it clarified the separate but equal part as we think about land grant universities. And so I wanted to clarify those things from a clarification. The final point I would like to make is, maybe I'm getting old, Chair Dennis, but this is my 5th stop in my career. And as a result, I only mentioned that to say that there are other institutions and examples out to look at, like the California model and other things, as to how we look at land grant status. So there are some requirements to be considered a land grant institution from the federal perspective. And those things should be considered as we move forward.
Thank you. Senator Harris, so with all the amendments, because I was trying to keep up with all of that. So the amendment, is the amendment just asking to do a study on what would happen, I mean, how we would be able to accomplish this?
Thank you for the question, Chair Dennis. The amendment does two things. It clarifies that all three research institutions will be identified as land grant institutions, and then yes, has that second piece where we would have the chancellor taking a look at how we should make this happen.
Okay, and so then we would be getting something, I guess, in the future that would come back and say, here's what we need to do?
That is my understanding, yes, Chair Dennis.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Or if I could, Chair Dennis, sorry, Senator Dallas Harris for the record, you'd probably get it on here's how to do it, as opposed to here's what we should do, here's how we get it done.
Right, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Thank you. All right, any other questions before we go to testimony? Okay, thank you, everyone. Let's now go to those who wish to give testimony in support of Senate Bill 287. If we could have the first caller.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support on SB 287, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support on SB 287, please press star 9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits, 909, slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello, my name is Abraham Lugo, A-B-R-A-H-A-M, last name L-U-G-O. I'm speaking today as a senator for UNLV on behalf of all students who have continuously and single-handedly overcome this pandemic to continue their higher education. Our state unemployment rate is at 8.3%, yet the fees for distance learning at UNLV during this pandemic have only increased. Moreover, 1,184 unaccompanied youths experienced homelessness in Nevada alone on any given night in 2019, before the global pandemic that has skyrocketed inequities in financial assistance to students. Passing SB 287 would provide jobs for both our students and faculty at UNLV, advancing the priorities laid out by the federal government in agriculture, engineering, and the sciences, while expanding educational access for students. The time to make UNLV a land-grant institution is long overdue. During these times, the university and everyone who is a part of it deserve to reap the benefits of being a land-grant institution, having lost opportunities in the past due to questions of eligibility in the uncertainty of its land-grant status, such as previous funding for healthy homes under HUD. Opportunities such as this were created to protect children and their families from daily hardships and will continue to exist and grow stronger, regardless if we deny the help. As a student, I have benefited firsthand from UNLV's status as an R1 Carnegie status institution, getting research published myself merely in my second semester at UNLV. This status has allowed me as a student leader to push towards expanding research opportunities for all majors, increasing participation, and the desire to utilize this status, which consequently benefits the institution, which also leads to the benefit of our higher education system in Nevada. This bill only serves to benefit these students that have overcome the impossible in continuing their degree as the world falls apart around them. I'm one of these students. I work to pay for my education with no financial aid as a DACA student, and I know what it feels like to not find a job due to a lack of opportunities of expansion at UNLV, and to have to find a way to continue paying for your future either way. Past SB 287, I need it, the students of Nevada need it, and the University of Nevada, Las Vegas will make Nevada proud with it. We trust that you will hear the students. Thank you for your hard work and your deliberation. I yield.
Thank you. Go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 312, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Joshua Padilla, Joshua Padilla. Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and the Senate Education Committee. I am Joshua Padilla, and I am the CSUN Student Body President at UNLV. I'm calling to strongly urge your support of SB 287. I'm a fourth-year civil engineering student, Latino, and I was born and raised here in Las Vegas. SB 287 would help many students like me by showing that UNLV, DRI, and UNR are all recognized as land-grant institutions of the state, which opens the door to all of these entities to the benefits and responsibilities of being land-grant institutions. It is important that in the growing and challenging world we are in, we continue to adapt and change with it. Ensuring that UNLV is a land-grant institution under the Morale Act opens the doors for Southern Nevada to diversify its economic development. As the population continues to grow exponentially in Las Vegas, this legislation allows us to remain diligent in expanding jobs and educational opportunities and access for many more students. UNLV has shown it has what it takes to remain competitive with other top-tier universities across the nation when we recently achieved R1 Carnegie status. We have made multiple breakthroughs in research, including recently a breakthrough in room temperature superconductors. We've been tapped by NASA to help identify magmatic rocks on Mars, and we even have a quickly growing engineering program where many of my close friends actually conduct research in a small area behind a 99-cent store. This legislation strengthens UNLV's Carnegie R1 status. It opens the door for us to be federally funded by organizations such as the National Science Foundation, National Institute of Health, and the Department of Education, just to name a few. It has always been uncertain about UNLV and DRI's land-grant status and has required extra obstacles for both entities to obtain specific funding. This is a very similar to the bill that was proposed in 2017, AB 407 at the time, which did pass through the Nevada Legislature at the time, but only failed because it was vetoed by then Governor Sandoval. I again strongly urge your support in the passage of SB 287. UNLV is a wonderful university, is in a hot spot for continued research, breakthroughs, and large economic growth. Recognizing UNLV, DRI, and UNR as land-grant institutions in our state will help many students and expand the value of our education. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing what the future holds.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 698. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon to Chair Dennis and the committee. For the record, my name is Olivia Checky, first name Olibia, last name Cheche, and I am the CSUN Student Government Senate President at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I strongly urge your support of SB 287 because at the end of the day, it will help students like me. SB 287 will reaffirm that UNLV, DRI, and UNR are the land-grant institutions of the state, which will open up the doors for UNLV to have more access to federal funding and resources. This will also be crucial for expanding jobs and economic development, which is especially necessary now as Southern Nevada has been hit hard by the COVID-19 recession. Our university can be central in the efforts to diversify the Las Vegas economy, but we will need more support to make this possible. In my 3 years at UNLV, I have seen some of the most incredible research accomplishments, but also some of the toughest research challenges for our faculty and students. I have seen UNLV physicists make a breakthrough in the long sought after test for a room temperature superconductor that will play a major role in the future of energy efficiency. But I have also seen engineering students have to fight for a second building as they work on projects behind a 99-cent only store across the street. Time and time again, UNLV students and faculty have defied the odds and done great things for our broader community with limited resources. In fact, we recently achieved Carnegie R1 status, even though some people, including a former regent, doubted that it would be possible. While I am proud that we have defied many odds, it shouldn't be like this in the first place. SB 287 would also support UNLV in maintaining its Carnegie R1 status. I have so much love for my school and feel unequivocally grateful for everything it has given me. However, I recognize that there is more work to be done for our students. Your support of SB 87, which would reaffirm UNLV, DRI, and UNR as the land-grant institutions in our state, will be a crucial step in increasing the value of our education. I look forward to seeing what the future holds, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 186. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello, Chair Dennis and members of the committee. My name is Chris Heavey, CHRISHEAVEY. I am the Executive Vice President and Provost of UNLV, and I speak today on behalf of President Keithy Whitfield and UNLV in support of SB 287. I have been a proud member of the UNLV and Southern Nevada communities for almost 30 years now. Although President Whitfield joined UNLV this past summer, he has quickly grown to appreciate this wonderful community as much as I do. The President and I understand that the mission of UNLV is to support our state and local community. We achieve that mission by educating students, but also through research and myriad forms of direct community engagement. We are absolutely committed to all facets of this mission. We support both the letter and the spirit of SB 287 in recognizing that we can best advance the well-being of our community by leveraging the resources and involvement of all of the NSHE research institutions. UNLV has more than 5,000 faculty and staff and more than 31,000 students, all eager to work together in support of the Southern Nevada community and the entire state of Nevada. With the passage of SB 287, UNLV will be an enthusiastic partner in growing the scope and impact of the services provided directly to our community, as well as increasing scientific research aimed at solving community problems, all of which is consistent with the goals of land-grant institutions. In conclusion, we believe the passage of SB 287, by clarifying the land-grant status of the three NSHE research institutions, will provide greater resources to support all of the communities throughout Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 853. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Doug Unger, D-O-U-G-U-N-G-E-R. I'm president of the UNLV chapter of the Nevada Faculty Alliance and past chair of the UNLV Faculty Senate and a professor of English. I'm speaking only for the chapter at UNLV and for faculty at UNLV, not for the state organization that has adopted an officially neutral stance toward SB 287. But I would like to express the enthusiastic support of the faculty and the Nevada Faculty Alliance chapter at UNLV for the passage of SB 287, the support of our students who are strongly in support of the bill, and to really point out once more and reiterate what others have said, that it will expand research opportunities for UNLV faculty, for our students, and for the economic development of Southern Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 633. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
My name is Peter Grema, P-E-T-E-R-G-R-E-M-A. I'm an undergraduate student at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and a legislative intern for bill sponsor Senator Dallas Harris. I'm calling in support of SB 287. This legislation is needed to ensure that UNLV, UNR, and DRI are on equal footing in terms of higher education governance in Nevada. Nevada ranks poorly on many metrics regarding workforce development. According to a recent report published by the Milken Institution, Nevada is last in the nation for technology and science workforce and 49th in human capital investment, challenging the state's economic resilience. Improving our higher education institutions can play a vital role in addressing this issue and helping to diversify our economy. It should come as no surprise to the members of this legislative committee that the Nevada system of higher education and some members of the University Board of Regents have historically prioritized the needs of UNR at the expense of UNLV, DRI, and other higher education institutions in the state. Nevadans have paid the price for this with one of the least diversified economies in the nation, which suffers greatly during downturns, such as the Great Recession and the COVID-19 pandemic. Ensuring that UNLV, DRI, and UNR are all equal under land-grant status is the first step in making sure that each institution is receiving equal attention and is able to apply for federal grants to bolster their research capabilities. In order for UNLV to maintain its Carnegie R1 status, it is imperative that it continue to grow its research capacity and compete for more grants in order to attract and retain faculty and to support students and researchers in their pursuit of innovative solutions and technology. Investments in skilled workforce development and research at UNLV and DRI will yield economic gains for Southern Nevada, which in turn benefits the whole state. Therefore, UNLV and DRI should have equal land grant status enshrined into state law. Once again, I'm in support of SB 287 and improving our higher education in Nevada. Doing so improves educational outcomes for our students, leaving Nevada more economically resilient. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next caller.
If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support on SB 287, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Okay, let's go to those that are in opposition. Anyone wishing to give testimony in opposition?
If you would like to testify in opposition on SB 287, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 010, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you. I'm Jake Tibbetts. That's JakeTibbitts. And I'm the Eureka County Natural Resources Manager representing Eureka County. So Chairman Dennis and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to share our views on SB 287. Eureka County opposes SB 287. I want to note that we've provided more detailed written testimony that's on Nellis. With the intent of NACO's amendment, many of our concerns are reduced related to the division and dilution of funding for crucial current extension and experiment station programming and research. As Dr. Lyles noted, the land grant status is inseparable from the individually and federally required tripartite components of research, extension, and teaching. It is imperative for the committee to fully understand the implications that could follow with passage of SB 287. There was a similar effort in 2017, as we heard, and while AB 407 passed and Governor Sandoval vetoed, he vetoed the bill because of the, quote, risks substantially outweigh its potential benefits, end quote. We believe his veto statement was spot on and it holds true on SB 287. We also asked the committee to review section 1419D of the 2018 Farm Bill, where Congress, with concerns about states doing just what SB 287 is proposing, Congress placed a prohibition on additional federal funding where states designate additional land grant entities. With the prohibition of no additional federal funding for the covered land grant programs, we're even more concerned about the risk of removal of funding for existing programs and staff. It's also important to understand that the current formulas for the federal land grant capacity funds are tied to Nevada's rural population and rural farms. Any diversion of resources intended to serve the rural population are a real concern. There's been a stated intent on record that there's no intention to take resources from existing land grant programs, but rather to be able to apply for and receive other grants intended for land grant institutions. If SB 287 is to be processed, there must be a no-harm amendment such as that NACO is putting forward to ensure that our very important programs and needs currently being met continue to be met. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 402, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and committee members. My name is Jason Geddes. That's JASON-GEDDES. I am a member of the Board of Regents and have been since 2006. And I do want to reiterate, I'm speaking for myself and not the board. As Chief Counsel Reynolds pointed out, the board has not discussed or taken action, and the official NISI position is neutral. I just want to bring a concern and my objection to 287 in the way it is brought through the process. We govern our institutions through a model of shared governance, where when we look to bring new programs forward or develop new degrees, we work with the faculty, staff, students, and the general community to identify what needs need to be met and how to get there. And we do that usually through the strategic planning process and the overall program plan that we submit to the legislature every 2 years. And then going back through, this issue has been brought by an outside entity with the support of Senator Harris, but in their strategic plans, DRI and UNLV have never identified that they want land grant status in there. It's not in the strategic plan. It's not in the UNLV Tier 1 plan, and it has not been discussed as a regent meeting, as I said. And if you look at the peer and aspirational institutions that UNLV and DRI have selected for themselves, none of their peer institutions are land grant. UNLV's aspirational institutions are the University of Texas, San Antonio, University of North Texas, and San Diego State. Those are their peers, sorry. Their aspirational are University of Houston, Arizona State, and UCF. And for DRI, their aspirational are Cold Springs Harbor Institute and the Woodhull Institute. And none of those land grant institutions and all of the goals that have been developed through the campus strategic plans don't include this. So I object to it based on the process and the outside entity not working with the institutions. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 750. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
My name is Amy Payson, AMY-PASON, and I'm the Faculty Senate Chair at the University of Nevada, Reno. I would like to call the committee's attention to the fact that the majority of folks who have been testifying in support of the bill and that were providing information at this hearing are not the people that work day to day and that are literally the experts of land grants, the federal grants that come from land grant status that work in our various counties and communities. UNR just doesn't own the label of land grant as if it is just something that we named ourselves. We are the land grant institution in that we provide the very specific programs that come with being a land grant, namely having an agricultural experiment station and having the extension programs within our communities to share that knowledge. UNLV, DRI do not have those types of programs. And therefore, even if we labeled them, even as this bill to me seems like a nice branding project, they wouldn't be able to have access to that money or be able to use money, especially in the bills or in the acts that have been identified today, the Hatch Act and the Smith-Weaver Act. You have to have an agricultural program for those particular acts. So this idea that magically more money will appear because we've renamed some things as land grant is a false assertion, in my opinion. Can all of our institutions apply more for federal grants? Can we achieve our Research One status without this rebranding and relabeling of all our institutions as land grants? Yes, we can. Can we all work together to better our communities and our institutions without this political fight over a labeling of land grants? Yes, we can. So I encourage the committee members, especially to reach out to the faculty, to the communities, to the extension offices that are currently doing this work to make sure that you are getting accurate information about the funding and the grants specific to land grants and all of the legal federal policies that designate land grants before you support this bill. UNR opposes this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 001. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin. Caller with the last three digits, 001, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis. My name is Bob Lucy, Chair, Washoe County Commission. My name is Boblucey. Chair Dennis, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak in opposition to the bill as drafted today. I am speaking on behalf of myself, not on behalf of the Washoe County Commission. But I would like to thank Senator Dallas Harris for the amendment that was worked on with NACO to address the concerns of the bill and working with us continually to address needed adjustments. However, there are still some current concerns that we have here within Washoe County. Our concerns are that with the passage of this bill, programming will decrease across the state. We will see these challenges dramatically impact all of the regions within our community. Also, counties and federal dollars and grants represent 90% of the funding for the Nevada Cooperative Extension. With these types of funding, the funding levels won't change, yet portions of the county dollars will be further divided amongst the state, resulting in a possible loss of revenue and lower quality of programs here within Washoe County. This budget has been continually cut in budgets previously for this program in every cycle prior to this session. And as we continue to move through this, the need to help divide the program amongst the three institutions rather than one will likely result in a higher administrative cost and result in the cuts to essential staff across Washoe County and the programming here within Washoe County. I want to thank the Chair Dennis and the committee for allowing me time to speak. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 740, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin. Once again, caller with the last three digits, 740, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin. And if you are having a hard time unmuting, press *6. Once again, caller with the last three digits, 740, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin. If you are having a hard time unmuting, press *6. Okay, moving on to the next caller. Caller with the last three digits, 349. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
For the record, my name is Doug Busselman, D-O-U-G-B-U-S-S-E-L-M-A-N. I'm the Executive Vice President of Nevada Farm Bureau. We are testifying today in opposition to SB 287. As we prepared for the discussions of SB 287, we were fortunate to have gained the understanding of a proposed amendment, conceptual amendment that has been discussed today, and the changes that made to the original bill. We greatly appreciate the opportunity that Senator Harris provided to discuss the new direction that the bill was going. Having said that, we are still deeply concerned over the consequences of what will happen should the bill be amended and passed. The idea that we understand to be the new Section 2 calls on the Chancellor to develop a plan to manage the assets and resources held by or afforded to the institutions that the bill seeks to designate as having land-grant university status. We maintain that this should be done before any changes are made. Whatever plan is called for should happen before you jump off the cliff, not after you've already done so. We would like to call your attention to the very complete background that Jake Tibbetts of Eureka County has submitted for your careful study. We are in total agreement with his analysis and explanation of the limitations associated with the federal funding for land-grant universities, especially the provisions of the 2018 Farm Bill that Mr. Tibbetts detailed in his testimony.
We agree with his assessment that multiplying the entities with designation as land-grant institutions will not increase funding available from the federal government for support of land-grant programs. We see this approach as taking an underfunded institution that we have now, serving as a land-grant university, and dividing the available funds into three more insufficient finance operations. We are very clear on what we believe that a land-grant university is supposed to do within the land-grant college system, established under the Morrill Acts of 1862 and 1890. We respectfully request details on the types of programs and activities that UNLV and DRI will be doing to earn the designation that SB 287 considers applying to them. We encourage the committee to not move this legislation forward.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 864. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you. My name is Nina Laxalt, NEENA-LAXALT, and I'm representing the Nevada Cattlemen's Association. We submitted a letter of opposition prior to seeing the 2 amendments that have been proposed. And while the 2 amendments make things better, we agree, and I'll go into a ditto here a little bit with both Jake Tibbetts and the testimony you just heard from Doug Busselman. I don't want to reiterate everything, but I guess I will requote Governor Sandoval's veto message, which we agree with, that we believe that this will cause more harm than benefit to the state, specifically to the rurals. And we urge your opposition to this bill. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits. Yes, Chair. Caller with the last 3 digits, 452. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Dennis and members of the Senate Education Committee. My name is William Bolt, B-O-L-D-T. I'm Vice President Emeritus from UNLV. I'm living in Henderson, Nevada now. And I appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of SB 287. I think I got out of the queue there. I started my 49-year career in higher education as a cooperative extension agent at Oregon State University in 1971. I spent half of my career at land-grant universities, including Oregon State Cornell University, which is a land grant for upstate New York and the entire state of New York, and UC Riverside. I've experienced a tremendous impact that the land grant designation has had on all of my institutions, including federal funding, research, private support. I have, for the last 30 years, been the chief external person for universities, including private support, government support, marketing, etc. So I know just how important the designation is. And coincidentally, I served for 4 years at University of California, Riverside, and it had the designation of a land-grant university. We did not govern cooperative extension. We had research programs, as UNLV has, and I saw during that time no issues with UC Davis. No funding was taken away. It just simply helped the southern part of California, especially the Inland Empire, really raise its status in education. What happened there was we created a medical school, we got an R1 status, etc. When I was at UNLV, we worked for 9 years to get an R1 status. And simply the land-grant institution status will help us. As you look at federal funding, there's a checklist. People say, okay, if it's a National Science Foundation grant, do you have R1 status? That's a check. Do you have land grant status? That's a check. I see nothing being taken away from UNR, which I respect. It's a great institution. I think it just adds synergy for the state and funding for UNLV and DRI, and I'm in very strong support of it. spent, again, most of my career with land-grant universities, and I think this is needed for the state. It doesn't divide. I think it adds support. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 255. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Dennis. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Thompson from the University of Nevada, Reno, JEFFREY THOMPSON. I serve as the Acting Executive Vice President and Provost for the University of Nevada, Reno. I've been on the faculty at UNR for almost 30 years, including 12 years as the Dean of the College of Science, and I'm proud of UNR's commitment to and long history of serving our state and our communities as part of the mission of our land-grant designation. Our entire university is committed to the core values of the land-grant mission as defined in the 1862 Morrill Act and signed into law by President Lincoln, which included providing a high-quality, accessible education for residents of the state, engaging in research relevant to and for the benefit of Nevadans, and translating that research into enriching the lives of the residents of Nevada. The University of Nevada, Reno opposes Senate Bill 287 because we believe it will dilute the finite federal financial resources that are already limited and duplicate administrative costs that will directly reduce the funds available to serve Nevadans. One of the primary carriers of the land-grant mission is Extension, a unit of the University of Nevada's Reno's College of Agriculture, Biotechnology, and Natural Resources. Extension is engaged in all of Nevadan communities, presenting research-based knowledge to address critical community needs and transforming Nevada. With 20 sites across Nevada, Extension creates a powerful integrated network that delivers educational resources to all Nevadans in urban, suburban, rural, and inner-city communities alike. It is a unique county, state, federal partnership that provides practical education to people, businesses, and communities and plays a vital role in fulfilling the university's land-grant mission. A few examples of Extension programs include, of course, one of the most well-known programs of Extension, 4-H, which engages over 27,000 youth in Clark County a year in educational and community building programs. Extension hosted the 4th annual Kickoff to Kindergarten School Readiness Fair this year, reaching 19,000 individuals and families in Clark County. And in Healthy Nutrition, the Healthy Kids, Healthy Start program equips preschool children to learn about healthy eating, fruits and vegetables, and physical fitness and activity, which reached over 200 classrooms. In summation, the University of Nevada, Reno is very proud of our service to all the residents of Nevada as part of our land-grant mission, and in particular, the amazing work of the Extension faculty and staff in Clark County. Again, UNR opposes Senate Bill 287 because it will dilute the finite federal financial resources that are already limited and duplicate administrative costs that will directly reduce the funds available to enhance the lives of Nevadans. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in opposition on SB 287, please press star 9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits, 627, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits, 627, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. For the record, I'm Marco Vallata, M-A-R-C-O-V-E-L-O-T-T-A. I'm from Henderson, Nevada, and I'm representing myself. I did submit a letter of opposition to SB 287, and it's reflected in the exhibits on Nellis. But I did want to reiterate my opposition simply to say that I believe this bill, even if meant with any of the suggested language, still poses an underlying problem and unintended consequences that would threaten existing programming and would cause unwarranted and unnecessary contention. I noted the parallels of this bill with AB 407 of the 79th session. As I'm sure you know, Governor Sandoval's veto message presented why the risks outweigh the benefits, which I concurred with. But there's still a lot left to the unknown. Other states just aren't set up this way as this bill is proposed, and they still do have equally successful institutions. As an example, and it was brought up earlier, Utah State is the land grant, and University of Arizona is the land grant in those respective states. Yet there are also equally successful public R1 research institutions, University of Utah and ASU in those cases. Together with the others listed or speaking in opposition, representing thousands of Nevadans, I urge you to consider opposing this bill. Thank you, Senator Harris and Senator Dennis, for your work, and be well.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Chair, there are no more callers in opposition at this time.
Okay, let's go to neutral.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in neutral on SB 287, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, if you'd like to testify in neutral on SB 287, press star 9. Caller with the last 3 digits, 863, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the Senate Education Committee. My name is Dagny Stapleton, D-A-G-N-Y, S-T-A-P-L-E-T-O-N. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Association of Counties, representing Nevada's county governments. I want to note that I did sign in opposed earlier, but I am neutral now and very much appreciate the sponsor accepting the NACO amendment as a friendly one. Because this amendment specifically addresses extension, I wanted to briefly share with the committee how important the cooperative extension program is to counties and all of Nevada's communities, both urban and rural. Each county has an extension educator, and there are then what are called extension specialists who serve statewide in areas such as youth and community development, mental health, economic development, horticulture, natural resources, and agriculture. These statewide specialists and county educators have academic backgrounds and bring university research and programming into Nevada's communities. Cooperative extension throughout the United States links local communities with global university resources, and Extension in Nevada assesses local needs through a formal consultative process to develop locally relevant programs. Extension benefits Nevada residents from all walks of life and supports every community in this state, the largest programs of which are in our urban areas. A few examples of what Extension does include trainings for child care workers, literacy, storytelling, and nutrition programs, teaching people, of course, how to grow their own healthy food, programs developed to help communities with domestic violence issues, and of course, 4-H programs, which support kids throughout Nevada, including through STEM education. Counties also care very much about Extension because we are the largest single funder of Extension. Extension is funded through federal grants and state funding through NCHE, but also every single county puts county dollars into this program. I believe all but one county funds a full $0.015 of local property tax dollars to Extension. And so it is the county contribution that is the predominant funding source for the program. I'd also like to note that counties have not reduced this funding over the years. Counties have continued their commitment to this program because of the value that Extension brings to the local level and the support that county commissioners understand these programs provide to their constituents. NACO and our members have worked for years to ensure that Extension programming and county funds are tailored to local needs and that counties are treated as stakeholders and partners. In working towards this goal, commissioners from across the state have worked with Extension Director Lyles to ensure that this program is thriving, which we believe that it currently is. Counties are engaged in extension in their communities, and this is true in Clark and Washoe counties as much as it is in Eureka and Churchill counties. Our concern with SB 287 was that, as written, as you have heard from others, it could jeopardize the existing funding structure and programming for extension. The goal of the amendment that we have proposed is to ensure that the existing funding sources and structure of extension will stay intact as they are today. Again, we want to express our thanks to the stakeholders and the sponsor, Senator Harris, for being willing to work with us on language and for accepting this amendment. If it's appropriate, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to provide comment.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 888, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Dennis, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tracy Bauer, Tracy
BOWER with the Desert Research Institute. CRI is neutral on SB 287. If it is approved, we would appreciate the opportunity to work with our partners at NSHE and UNLV and UNR as appropriate on a plan to implement the bill, but again, we remain neutral. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Chair, there are no more callers in neutral at this time.
Okay, so we will go ahead and close the hearing. I know Senator Harris had to go chair her meeting, so she has to be excused. So she's on to that. So with that, I will go ahead and close the hearing on, and I appreciate all the comments from everybody. It really helps as we go through this process. So I closed the hearing on SB 287, and we will move on to our next item on the agenda, which is public comment. If we could queue up those that are wishing to give public comment.
If you would like to participate in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, if you'd like to participate in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Great, thank you very much. So we'll go ahead and close public comment. Let's see. Before we met, our next meeting is going to be held on Wednesday. Just keep an eye on the calendar. I know we've got a lot of bills to hear, and so we're going to be meeting also on Friday this week. Trying to start earlier, and I think we're going to be able to do that. And we may have, to keep an eye on the calendar, we may have a Wednesday evening continuation of the Wednesday afternoon if we don't get done. Today we went over a little bit, but we can't go over because we lose some of our members. So I want to make sure that you guys are have that on your calendars. So with that, I have no further items to come before us today. So we are, that concludes our meeting, and we are adjourned.